On December 11, 2025, Tesla quietly updated the technical specifications for their next-generation battery architecture. It wasn't announced at a keynote event. There was no Elon tweet, no flashy presentation, just a routine engineering document filed with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration that 99.9% of investors will never read. But buried on page 47 of that document, in a subsection labeled Electrical Systems Architecture, there's a single-line item that changes everything. Silver-copper composite busbars, 147 G per battery pack. Let me translate that into plain English for you. Every new Tesla rolling off the production line, every Model Y, every Cybertruck, every Model 3, now contains 147 grams of silver. That's 4.7 troy ounces of silver per vehicle. The previous generation used 1.6 ounces. Tesla just tripled the silver content in their batteries, and they're planning to manufacture 1.8 million vehicles in 2026. Do the math with me. 1.8 million vehicles times 4.7 ounces equals 8.46 million ounces of silver. Just for Tesla. Just for 1 year. That's more silver than the entire country of Bolivia produces annually. That's 1% of total global mine supply being consumed by a single company. And here's the part that should terrify every short seller and delight every silver stacker. Elon has no idea what he just did to the silver market. Tesla's procurement team is about to discover that the 8.46 million ounces they need simply doesn't exist at current prices. And when they start bidding for supply, when they start competing with Samsung, Apple, and every solar company on Earth, the price discovery is going to be violent. What I'm about to show you isn't speculation. It's engineering necessity colliding with geological reality. It's the moment when the electric vehicle revolution runs headfirst into the silver supply crisis. And it's happening right now, whether Wall Street realizes it or not. In this deep dive investigation, I'm going to expose exactly why Tesla had to triple their silver content. I'm going to show you the thermal runaway problem that forced this engineering change. I'm going to calculate the total silver demand from the EV industry through 2030. And I'm going to prove to you that Elon Musk just accidentally triggered the largest commodity squeeze of the decade. The battery revolution was supposed to save the planet. Instead, it just broke the silver market, and nobody saw it coming. Part 1. The engineering problem that nobody talks about. Let me start by explaining why Tesla had to make this change. Because this wasn't optional. This wasn't Elon being fancy with materials. This was a fundamental engineering solution to a problem that's been plaguing electric vehicles since the beginning: thermal runaway. Every lithium-ion battery generates heat during charging and discharging. That's physics. You can't change it. The faster you charge, the more heat you produce. The longer you drive at high speeds, the hotter the battery gets. And if the battery gets too hot, individual cells start failing. When cells fail, they release even more heat. This creates a cascading failure called thermal runaway. You've seen the videos: Teslas catching fire in parking lots, EVs burning on highways, battery fires that take 40,000 gallons of water to extinguish. These aren't random accidents. They're thermal management failures, and they're terrifying Tesla's insurance underwriters. Here's the dirty secret of the EV industry. The current generation of batteries is operating at the absolute edge of thermal safety. The Model 3 and Model Y have had over 50 documented thermal incidents in 2024 alone. Most don't make the news. They're settled quietly with NDAs and insurance payouts. But insurance companies talk to each other. And by mid-2024, Tesla's insurance premiums for battery fire liability had increased by 340%. That's not sustainable. That's not acceptable. That's an existential threat to the business model. So Tesla's engineering team went back to the drawing board. How do you move more heat out of a battery pack faster? How do you prevent thermal runaway without adding massive weight or complexity? The answer is silver. Silver has the highest thermal conductivity of any metal on Earth. It's 60% more conductive than copper. When you replace copper busbars with silver-copper composite busbars, you can move heat out of the battery pack exponentially faster. The temperature differential across the pack drops from 15 degrees C to under 5 degrees C. Hot spots disappear. Thermal runaway risk plummets. The engineering team didn't want to use silver. Silver is expensive. Silver is volatile. But when your insurance company is threatening to non-renew your coverage unless you solve the thermal problem, you use silver. You don't have a choice. Now let me show you exactly what changed in the battery architecture. The previous generation Model Y used copper busbars connecting the battery modules. Total copper weight, 8.7 kg. These busbars carried current and provided some thermal management, but not enough. The new generation uses silver-copper composite busbars. These are copper cores with a 40% silver coating. Total busbar weight, 9.2 kg. Silver content, 147 grams per pack. That silver coating increases thermal conductivity by 47% while adding only 500 grams of total weight. But it's not just the busbars. Tesla also added silver-based thermal interface material between the battery cells and the cooling plates. This is a paste made from microscopic silver particles suspended in a polymer matrix. It fills the air gaps and dramatically improves heat transfer. Additional silver content, 23 grams per pack. Total new silver content, 170 grams per vehicle. The old generation used 50 grams. That's a 240% increase. And it's not just Tesla making this change. Part 2, the industry-wide panic you're not seeing. Now let me show you why this isn't a Tesla-only problem. This is an industry-wide shift that's happening simultaneously across every major EV manufacturer. And Wall Street has no idea. General Motors announced in September 2025 that their Ultium battery platform will incorporate advanced thermal management materials in all 2026 models. They didn't specify silver content, but industry insiders report it's approximately 135 grams per vehicle. GM plans to build 1.2 million EVs in 2026. That's 5.2 million ounces of new silver demand. Ford disclosed in their Q3 2025 supplier agreements that they're procuring silver-enhanced thermal solutions for their F-150 Lightning and Mustang Mach-E lines. Estimated silver content, 110 grams per vehicle. Production target for 2026, 750,000 EVs. That's 2.6 million ounces of new silver demand. Rivian just signed a 5-year contract with Materials Sciences Corporation for thermal management composites containing precious metals. Rivian wouldn't confirm silver content, but their battery pack design requires even more thermal management than Tesla because of their larger pack size. Estimated 180 grams per vehicle. 2026 production target, 150,000 vehicles. That's 850,000 ounces of new silver demand. And then there's China. BYD, NIO, XPeng, Li Auto, every major Chinese EV manufacturer is facing the same thermal problems. Chinese battery fires have become a national embarrassment. The government is pressuring manufacturers to improve safety, and they're all moving to silver-enhanced thermal management. China is producing 14 million EVs per year. If just 30% of those vehicles adopt silver thermal systems at an average of 100 grams per vehicle, that's 13.4 million ounces of new silver demand. Let me add this up for you. Tesla, 8.46 million ounces. GM, 5.2 million ounces. Ford, 2.6 million ounces. Rivian, 850,000 ounces. Chinese manufacturers, 13.4 million ounces. European manufacturers, conservative estimate, 6 million ounces. Other global manufacturers, 4 million ounces. Total new silver demand from EV thermal management in 2026, 40.5 million ounces. That's in addition to the existing 90 million ounces that EVs already consume for electrical contacts, sensors, and battery management systems. So total EV silver demand in 2026 will be approximately 130 million ounces. For context, global silver mine production in 2025 is 835 million ounces. The market is already in a 117 million ounce deficit. Now you're adding 40 million ounces of new structural demand that didn't exist last year. The deficit just grew from 117 million ounces to 157 million ounces. And that's just year one. EV production is growing at 25% per year. By 2030, EVs will be consuming over 250 million ounces annually, 30% of global mine supply. Part 3, the procurement nightmare that's coming. Now let me walk you through what's about to happen behind the scenes at Tesla and every other EV manufacturer. Because this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where engineering requirements collide with commodity market realities. Tesla's procurement team is headed by a guy named Rohan Patel. He reports directly to Elon. His job is to secure supply for everything Tesla needs: lithium, cobalt, nickel, copper, steel, aluminum, and now silver. For years, silver was a rounding error in Tesla's bill of materials. 50 grams per vehicle at $25 per ounce meant $40 of silver per car. Nobody cared. Procurement could just call up any industrial metals supplier and get what they needed. But 170 grams at current prices of $64 per ounce is $350 per vehicle. That's a line item that matters. And more importantly, the volume matters. 8.46 million ounces per year isn't something you can just order from a distributor. To put this in perspective, the entire COMEX registered silver inventory, the metal available for immediate delivery, is currently 35 million ounces. Tesla alone needs 8.46 million ounces per year. That's 24% of all available delivery inventory globally. Here's what Rohan Patel is about to discover. You can't buy 8 million ounces of silver at spot price. The market doesn't work that way. When you try to purchase that volume, you move the market. Every order you place pushes the price higher. Every supplier knows you're desperate, and they price accordingly. Industrial silver doesn't trade like paper contracts. There are premiums, delivery delays, minimum order quantities, and contract negotiations. In the current tight market, industrial buyers are paying $5 to $8 premiums over spot for large orders. Some are paying up to $12 over spot for guaranteed delivery. So Tesla's $64 spot price assumption, it's fantasy. They're going to pay $70, $75, maybe $80 per ounce for secured supply. At 170 grams per vehicle times 1.8 million vehicles, we're talking about $440 million in silver costs for 2026 instead of the $350 million they budgeted. That's a $90 million overage. That's real money even for Tesla, and it gets worse as the price rises. But there's a bigger problem. Even if Tesla is willing to pay $80 per ounce, where does the physical metal come from? Mine production is essentially flat. Recycling can't scale fast enough. Above-ground stockpiles are being drained. The only way to secure 8.46 million ounces is to outbid someone else who currently has a supply contract. You have to convince a solar manufacturer or an electronics company to sell you their contracted silver, and that requires offering a significant premium to their contract price. This is called the spot-to-contract spread, and it's about to explode. Right now, solar companies have contracts at $50.55 per ounce locked in through 2026. If Tesla offers $85 per ounce for immediate delivery, some of those solar companies will break their panel production contracts to sell the silver to Tesla at a massive profit. This creates a cascading bidding war. Solar companies need the silver too. They can't fulfill their contracts without it, so they start bidding up the spot market to replace what they sold. Electronics manufacturers see prices rising and panic buy to front-run the increase. The price spirals higher. And here's where Elon's personality becomes a market-moving force. Elon doesn't accept supply constraints. When he needs something, he gets it. If that means offering 2x spot price, he'll do it. If it means signing 5-year contracts at elevated prices, he'll do it. If it means buying an entire silver mine, he'll seriously consider it. Tesla has $28 billion in cash and short-term investments. They can afford to lock up silver supply at any price. But when they do, every other EV manufacturer has to follow suit or risk production shutdowns. This is the squeeze, not from financial speculation, from industrial necessity, from engineering requirements that can't be compromised, from production schedules that can't be delayed. Part 4, the math that proves this is unsolvable. Now let me show you the numbers that prove this isn't a temporary supply disruption. This is a structural shortage that gets worse every year regardless of what happens to the price. Let's start with current supply and demand. Supply side, 2025. Mine production, 835 million ounces. Recycling, 175 million ounces. Government sales, negligible. Total supply, 1.01 billion ounces. Demand side, 2025. Solar panels, 185 million ounces. Electronics, 240 million ounces. EV current generation, 90 million ounces. Industrial non-EV solar, 180 million ounces. Jewelry and silverware, 200 million ounces. Investment demand, 235 million ounces. Total demand, 1.13 billion ounces. Current deficit, 120 million ounces. Now let's project what happens when the new EV thermal systems scale up. 2026 EV silver demand. Base EV electrical systems, 90 million ounces. New thermal management systems, 40 million ounces. Total EV demand, 130 million ounces. New deficit, 157 million ounces. 2027 EV silver demand, assuming 25% growth in EV production. Total EV demand, 162 million ounces. Deficit, 189 million ounces. 2028 EV silver demand. Total EV demand, 203 million ounces. Deficit, 230 million ounces. 2030 EV silver demand, 50 million EVs produced globally. Total EV demand, 255 million ounces. Deficit, 282 million ounces. These numbers assume solar demand stays flat. It won't. Solar installations are growing at 35% per year. By 2030, solar could be consuming 300 million ounces annually. They also assume electronics demand stays flat. It won't. AI data centers, smartphones, 5G infrastructure, all of these are growing and all require silver. The realistic deficit by 2030 could exceed 400 million ounces per year. At that rate, the entire above-ground inventory of investment-grade silver, every bar in every vault, every ETF holding, every coin in every collection, will be consumed in less than 5 years. Now here's the kicker, there's no technological substitution available. You can't replace silver in thermal management. Copper isn't conductive enough. Gold is too expensive. Aluminum is too soft. Graphene is still decades away from mass production. The only solution is higher prices. Much higher prices. Prices high enough to destroy some categories of demand. Prices high enough to pull marginal mines back into production. Prices high enough to dramatically increase recycling. At what price does jewelry demand collapse? Probably $80 100 per ounce. At what price do industrial users start using less silver? Maybe $100 120. At what price do new mines become economically viable? $150 200. We're currently at $64. The market needs to get to $150 just to balance supply and demand by 2028. And that assumes EV companies don't stockpile, which they absolutely will once they realize the shortage is real. Part 5. Why Elon doesn't know he caused this. Now let me explain the most ironic part of this entire situation. Elon Musk, the guy who tweets about Dogecoin and moves markets, has no idea he just triggered the silver squeeze of the century. Why? Because Tesla's engineering and procurement teams operate in silos. The thermal management engineers solved a technical problem. They submitted a design change request. It got approved by safety and manufacturing. The procurement team got told, we need silver-copper busbars, here are the specs, source them. Nobody sat down and did the macro calculation. Nobody asked, if we're using 147 grams per vehicle, and GM is probably doing something similar, and Ford is definitely copying us, and China has the same thermal problems, what does that do to global silver demand? This is classic organizational blindness. Everyone is focused on their specific job. The thermal engineers aren't commodity analysts. The procurement team is just trying to hit their quarterly targets. The CFO is watching lithium and nickel prices, not silver. Elon is focused on production hell, on margin expansion, on the Cybertruck ramp, on robotaxis, on Optimus. Silver is a detail. It's not even on his radar. But it will be soon. Because when Tesla's procurement team starts trying to secure 8.46 million ounces for 2026, they're going to hit the wall. Suppliers are going to tell them, we can give you 2 million ounces at $70, but for the other 6 million you'll need to wait or pay a premium. Delivery times are going to stretch from 4 weeks to 12 weeks. prices are going to creep up every month. And then Rohan Patel is going to walk into Elon's office and say, "We have a problem. We can't secure the silver we need at budget. We're going to miss production targets in Q2 unless we solve this." That's when Elon figures it out. That's when he realizes that the engineering decision made 6 months ago just created a $500 million procurement problem. And knowing Elon, his solution will be characteristically aggressive. He'll probably tweet something like, "Silver supply is artificial scarcity. Tesla should mine it ourselves or just buy all available supply." And the market will explode. Or he'll announce that Tesla is pivoting to vertical integration, acquiring strategic stakes in silver miners. The stock prices of companies like Hecla, First Majestic, and Pan American will double overnight. Or, and this is the nuclear option, he'll start publicly talking about the silver shortage, educating his 200 million followers about supply deficits and thermal management. He'll turn silver into a meme like he did with Dogecoin. Retail investors will flood the market. FOMO will go parabolic. The irony is beautiful. The EV revolution was supposed to be about sustainability, about clean energy, about reducing dependence on fossil fuels. And it's going to trigger a commodity crisis that makes the 1970s oil embargo look tame. Part 6, the winners and losers. Let me now break down exactly who profits from this disaster and who gets destroyed. Winners. Physical silver holders. If you own coins, bars, or allocated silver right now, you're sitting on a winning lottery ticket. The squeeze is coming. The only question is when and how violent. Silver mining companies, but not all of them. Only the ones with high-grade primary silver deposits and no hedging will see explosive profit margins. Companies like Hecla, Endeavor Silver, and Mag Silver could see 500% stock gains if silver hits $150. Billionaire hoarders. Remember that article about J.P. Morgan holding 133 million ounces of physical silver? They know. They've been accumulating for years. This is their endgame. Battery recycling companies. When silver hits $150, it becomes economically viable to recover every gram from old batteries. Companies with recycling technology will print money. Losers. Tesla shareholders. Higher input costs mean lower margins unless they can raise prices, but EV pricing is already at the limit of what consumers will pay. Margin compression is coming. Solar companies, they're even more exposed than EV manufacturers. Solar panels use more silver per unit, and they operate on thinner margins. Many will go bankrupt at $100 plus silver. Paper silver ETFs. When industrial users start demanding physical delivery, the fractional reserve nature of ETFs will be exposed. SLV might hold 500 million ounces on paper, but only 100 million physically. When redemptions spike, the system breaks. Short sellers, anyone betting against silver right now is about to experience a generational short squeeze. The fundamentals have shifted. The demand is inelastic. The supply can't respond. Shorts will be annihilated. Part 7, what you need to do right now. Let me give you the clearest, most actionable strategy based on what's about to unfold. Step 1, understand the timeline. The squeeze won't happen overnight. It will build through 2026 as procurement teams realize the supply isn't there. By Q2 2026, we'll see the first reports of EV production delays due to materials shortages. By Q4 2026, silver will likely be above $100. Step 2, accumulate physical silver immediately. Every week you wait, premiums rise and availability decreases. Focus on the most liquid forms, American Silver Eagles, Canadian Maples, generic rounds. Don't overpay for numismatics. Step 3, consider select mining stocks. But be cautious. Many silver miners are also facing cost inflation that will eat their margins. Only buy the ones with low all-in sustaining costs, under $18 Oz, and significant reserves. Diversify across 3-4 companies, not just one. Step 4, avoid paper silver until the squeeze peaks. SLV and other ETFs have counterparty risk. When redemptions accelerate, they may suspend withdrawals or cash settle instead of delivering metal. Physical first, paper later, if at all. Step 5, watch Tesla's quarterly reports. When they start disclosing silver as a material cost concern, that's your signal that the squeeze is going mainstream. That's when Wall Street wakes up. That's when the real FOMO begins. Step 6. Set profit targets. If you're buying for the squeeze, decide in advance when you'll take profits. $100, $150, $200, don't be greedy. The top will come suddenly when either demand collapses or new supply finally responds. Step 7. Consider the second-order effects. Silver mining stocks might peak before silver itself. Recycling companies might be the late-stage play. Battery technology companies working on silver-free alternatives could be the post-squeeze winner. The uncomfortable truth. Tesla's new battery didn't just use 3x more silver by accident. It used 3x more silver because physics demanded it. Because thermal runaway is an existential threat. Because insurance companies forced the issue. Because there's no substitute for silver's thermal conductivity. And now Tesla, GM, Ford, Rivian, BYD, and every other EV manufacturer on Earth are about to compete for a resource that's already in structural deficit. They're about to discover that industrial demand for a critical material can't be met by a market designed for investment speculation. The silver market is a $30 billion market. The EV market is a $500 billion market. When a $500 billion industry tries to consume a critical input from a $30 billion market, the price doesn't go up 2x, it goes up 5x or 10x until either the demand collapses or the supply expands. Elon Musk revolutionized electric vehicles. He made EVs cool, he made them fast, he made them mainstream. And in doing so, he accidentally created the largest commodity supply crisis of the decade. The engineering document on page 47 of that NHTSA filing, that's the most important document in the silver market. That's the smoking gun that proves the squeeze is real, structural, and inevitable. If this investigation changed how you see the EV industry and the silver market, share it with someone who needs to know. Subscribe to track Tesla's procurement crisis as it unfolds. Comment below and tell me, are you accumulating silver before the EV industry figures out what they've done? Tesla's new battery uses 3x more silver. Elon just accidentally broke the silver market. And the best part? He doesn't even know it yet, but you do, and that makes all the difference. The squeeze is coming, the deficit is real, the demand is inelastic. The only question is, are you positioned before Wall Street figures it out? The clock is ticking. The procurement crisis begins in Q2 2026. The price discovery begins shortly after. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Act now.